Hey everyone, with Arena finally being out, a lot of things have changed compared to the last time we had it, and it can be really confusing with the new prismatic items and also stat charts. So in today's video, I wanted to go over and make a quick guide on how to play in Build KAISA in Arena 3.0. We'll go over augments and items to buy so you're not confused when you're playing this mode. And by the way, remember to subscribe if you like this video, it helps me a lot. Alright, let's get started. The first thing you probably realize is that there are way more players now than before, going from 8 to 16 players. But even with more people, it doesn't really increase the average game time, since you lose more HP now, so overall the game time stays the same. Also, the overall idea of Arena didn't change, and the gameplay is still pretty much the same. What did change on the other hand is item and stats. We still have the augments like before and the normal league items, plus a couple ones that are not in the normal game, but what is new is the prismatic items, which are basically mythics that we had before, but this time you cannot buy them directly, you need to roll for them. You get one for free at round 3, and after that you need to spend 4,000 gold to get another one. And they are of course stronger than normal items and will kinda define what build you will go for. Next up, you can also buy stats like AD, AP, haste and so on through this stat chart shop. So yes, there's a lot of RNG, but also a lot of ways to build KAISA in this mode, which is why it can be a bit confusing at the start. But overall, after a couple games like 5 or 6, you should start to get the hang of it pretty fast. Now what's really important to understand about this mode and KAISA is that if you're gonna focus on only one build, like for example AP, you might run into some issues really fast. Let me explain. When the game starts, you will have to choose one augment, and 2 rounds later, you will be forced to choose a prismatic item. And you only have 3 rerolls when there is so much RNG in this mode. So if you waste all your rerolls in the first 3 rounds because you want to play AP KAISA, this means you risk to have no more rerolls for future augments, or if you want to buy items through the random shop. This is why I really recommend to have at least 2 builds you want to focus on. This can be AD and AP or hybrid and AP, so you have more chance to basically get what you want and win more games. But even with this, there are some games where you're gonna get horrible augments and items and you'll get destroyed and lose because you're simply not lucky enough. That's one of my biggest issues with this mode, is that there's so much RNG that sometimes you win not because you're better, just because you're lucky. But that's why I'm here, and now let's finally talk about builds. I'll cover 4 builds today: AD Crit, Omnivamp/Melee KAISA, AP, and finally hybrid. Let's first start with AD Crit KAISA. Now for the augments, since there are so many of them, I will say what you need to focus on and give a couple good examples. AD Crit KAISA is by far the most comfortable build there is because it follows the same playstyles you have on Ranked, so you should not be too confused. For AD Crit augments, you want to mainly focus on those that give you crit, attack speed and AD, and only go for defensive options when you have no other choice. Really good augments are Symphony of War for little tempo, Blade to make you impossible to hit, Soul Siphon, Deft, and finally it's critical. Again, remember there are many more augments that can work. As for the build, you want to start with Hammer and attack speed boots. Next, your first item should be or Gale Force, or Fulmination, or Sword of the Divine, or this one. Then you build Navari second, but for your third item, you should wait for 4,000 gold to get another prismatic, and it should be one from the same list. And finally, for your 4th and 5th item, it depends on what you need. You can go for example like Borg LDR if you need penetration, or Mod GA if you need defensive. Finally, the best time to build AD Crit KAISA in Arena is when you have a beefy tank with you. This can be a support like Tom or a tank like Zac, because you're still pretty squishy and you need time to land your damage at auto attack range. But funny enough, this isn't the strongest build there is, because the strongest KAISA build is by far Omnivamp/Melee KAISA. Here's the thing, since Arena is filled with tanks that doesn't die, supports that perma-heal even through anti-heal, and people that can sustain true damage, being a squishy damage dealer doesn't really feel good sometimes. So if you can beat them, why not just join them and become a melee champ ourselves and eat through the damage while it being almost impossible to kill. One thing though, this build is really reliant on one augment, which is Draw Your Sword, and one prismatic, which is Helm. So, and this is really important, you should only go for this if you get either the augment or the item by the 3rd round. Apart from that, the augments you should aim for are any that gives you AD or attack speed. And also falling Aegis, because since you're melee, having a black shield is a really good defensive option. As for the build, it's pretty simple. If you can get Helm first, then your second item should be Hatchet, because it gives you enough Omnivamp to activate the Helm's passive. And then after that, for your 3rd, 4th and 5th, you can go for Dead Dance, Maul for MR, Borg versus tanks, GA, and so on. Remember, your objective after your first 2 items is to become a tanky bruiser. Now if you're not lucky and you cannot get Helm first, then other good options are Gale Force, Fulmination, and finally Claw. Then your second item should still be Hatchet, and then for your 3rd item you just need to wait for 4,000 gold to get Helm. Overall, this is by far the funniest Arena build I ever tried, because it makes you so tanky it's insane. It doesn't require any good teammates since you're a 1v2 machine, you just need to get some luck to get this one item and one augment. Okay, next up, AP KAISA. This build does a lot of damage but does require some time to ramp up. So first thing, for this build you want to max W first and then Q. And instead of going for armor into attack speed boots, you want to get orb into sorcery boots. As for the augments, your focus should be with anything that gives you AP, haste, or enhance your abilities. For example, Spellwick, Magic Missile, Chain Lightning, Recursion, and Eureka for haste. As for the build, it's pretty simple. Your prismatic should be Knight Eversur or the Orb. You can also go for Crown or Everfrost, but they are less efficient. Then you want to build Shadow Flame if you have more than 50 haste, or Ludens if you have less. Then Deadcap third and Perplexity fourth for the shred, and finally one more AP item of your choice. Overall, this build works best into squishy composition. Just make sure to not go for this into champions that can spawn entities, like Hammerdinger, Zara, or Yorick. And also versus champion that can perma-heal, like Tarek, Sona, Yumi, because it won't be fun. And finally, let's talk about hybrid now. This build also takes time to ramp up, but has a lot of options when it comes down to augments. You can go for any that gives you attack speed, AD, AP, enhance ability, and on-hit damage. So basically every augment I've shown in this video except for crit. But do try to get Thread the Needle because it gives you both AD and AP penetration. For the build, it's pretty simple. You want to start with an AD item for Q evolution. So it can be Helm, or Ham, or Fulmination, or Gale Force. Then you build Nashor second. For your third item, if you're fed, you can go for another Prismatic that gives you attack speed and AP, like Spellblade, Mirage Blade, Reality Fracture, or Flesh Eater. And if you're not fed, you can just go for Shadow Flame third. Then you build Deadcap fourth and one more AP item of your choice. Like for AD crit, try to have a tank with you if you want to build this. Oh, and also you want to max Q first and then E. And there you go. This should pretty much cover everything you need to know about builds for KAISA in Arena. Now there are many other ways to build, and I encourage all of you to try your way to build Building KAISA. But if you want a reliable and tested build that are for sure to work, I hope this video helped. And before we end, I just wanted to quickly go over the power of KAISA in Arena. I think she feels pretty okay, to be fair. She's by far not the best ADC, but also not the worst, since she has so many options. But I do feel like compared to other versions of Arena, she has gotten a bit weaker. That's probably because of Prismatic making tanks and healing get out of control, and she's pretty reliant on getting a tank as a teammate to protect you from the other side. But even with that, I still think the new Arena is pretty fun for her, and honestly, I like it. Alright, if you like this video and you don't want to miss out on any new KAISA content coming soon, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.